Welcome to the Ask Dr. Deanna show. I'm Dr. Deanna Osborne, your host. Join me weekly as I cover various health-related lifestyle medicine topics that you get to request. This show is for anyone who wants to proactively improve their health position. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining in today. We are about to launch a new series, new month, the month of May. We're going to be talking about different diet plans. I think that a lot of people, especially my patients, new patients coming in, feel confused about what they should eat, what they, what plan they should be following. And so I thought, hey, what better time than to break it down and look at all of these different options because it is not one size fits all, and determine, when do you use this plan versus another plan. And so what I'm planning to do over the next few weeks is to talk a little bit about AIP, which is the autoimmune protocol diet, paleo diet, ketogenic diet, the carnivore diet, vegan diet, the DASH diet, the Mediterranean diet, and then, of course, the standard American diet will be thrown in there as well. And I think the thing that's important to remember, you guys, is as we go through some of these plans, asking yourself, number one, what are your goals? So it does come down when I say that it's not one size fits all. It depends on what the person is after, what they're trying to achieve with the diet plan. It also depends somewhat on their genetics as well. And then also, I think a huge component of this is the sustainability aspect of it. Is the plan that you're following a sustainable plan? Can you do it long term? And some of them, quite honestly, like AIP, autoimmune protocol, which we're going to talk about heavily today, are not intended to be a sustainable diet plan. In fact, the reason I'm grouping autoimmune protocol and paleo today, those are the two things we're going to talk about, is that autoimmune protocol is really more of an elimination diet. And then after you've eliminated, usually for 30 to 90 days, and then you start reintroducing foods, you typically land somewhere more on a paleo style of diet. So let's just jump right in. I'm going to kick it off by talking about the autoimmune protocol. And again, autoimmune protocol is very, very similar to paleo. It's just much more strict in terms of what you can include, what you can eat, and then, of course, what you're eliminating. And basically, it's the goal of autoimmune protocol is really to eliminate the foods that might be causing inflammation, and then to reintroduce them gradually. And so autoimmune protocol aims to decrease inflammation, to decrease pain, to decrease fatigue, and other symptoms that are primarily caused by autoimmune. That's why they call it the autoimmune protocol. So some of those autoimmune diseases, of course, are things like lupus. Inflammatory bowel disease is a big one. So a lot of people who are struggling with IBD, which would be Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, those sorts of things, they will definitely heavily gravitate toward the autoimmune protocol. Celiac disease, rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis, even type 1 diabetes is considered to be an autoimmune. And so the reason this autoimmune plan works, and there are good studies to support that people do have an improvement in symptoms with this plan, is that basically it is addressing leaky gut. And so leaky gut is this whole concept of there are certain foods and or chemicals that inflame the intestines and cause the gut to be more permeable than it should be. When it's more permeable than it should be, things leak across that lining that should not, and then it sends the immune system into an overdrive state and creates this whole autoimmune type of syndrome. And, I mentioned several autoimmune conditions that people would use AIP for, the autoimmune protocol, but I did not mention Hashimoto's. Okay, so certain thyroid diseases as well, definitely heavily used there. And I've seen great benefits by incorporating a plan like this for that as well. So the goal of the autoimmune protocol is really, it's a gut healing diet. That's really the focus. And so by healing the gut through this elimination and, figuring out what the triggers are in terms of food, you are then able to improve that permeability issue in the gut, thereby settling the immune system down or quieting the immune system down so that it's not overreacting to things. So there are two phases to the autoimmune protocol. The first phase is considered that elimination phase, and that's the harder phase. That is it's usually from 30 to 90 days. That time period depends on symptoms, really. It's like, well, if after 30 days you have no more symptoms and you feel great, it's time to start incorporating some foods back in and see what were truly the triggers. If you're still having symptoms, then a lot of times people will go more like 90 days. And then at that point, start to incorporate things back in. So during the elimination phase of the autoimmune protocol, it is typical to eliminate things like grain. You hear me talk all the time about no sugar, no grain, but eliminating grain, eliminating legumes, nuts, seeds, nightshades, eggs and dairy, tobacco, coffee, alcohol, oils, all food additives, so all processed type foods, refined and processed sugars, and anti-inflammatory, products such as ibuprofen, naproxen, Aleve, those sorts of things. Okay, this does not sound fun, does it? Okay, I get it. This does not sound fun. This is not a sustainable plan. This is absolutely, you can see why. Okay, you eliminate for a while. What are you going to eat on the autoimmune protocol? There's a great book out there. It's a cookbook called Against All Grain. And that is a really good cookbook that kind of helps move in this direction for those of you who are wondering. But basically, what you would eat would be fresh, nutrient dense foods, no processed foods at all. You would eat some fermented foods. A lot of times, people doing the autoimmune protocol will incorporate bone broth because it basically is soothing to the gut, and the collagen that's in it, as well as the fat, is also very healing to the gut. And also, you focus on decreasing stress, making sure that you are sleeping properly during this time, and then also addressing physical activity, making sure that you're having some. Okay, so that's the elimination phase, and it again, it's restrictive. And it is difficult. It can be very, very challenging to be able to do this plan because, let's face it, we do eat a lot in a social setting, of course. And then the second phase is the reintroduction phase of the autoimmune protocol. And so you basically start the reintroduction phase after your symptoms have improved. So once symptoms have improved, whatever it is that you're targeting in your autoimmune disease journey, and you're getting an improvement in symptoms, then you gradually start reintroducing foods one at a time. You typically introduce one food from that list, and you wait. You can continue eating that food, but you wait about 5 to 7 days before you bring anything else new in, so that if you are having a reaction, you'll know what it is that you're reacting to. And you can, if you do react, then obviously that's going to stay on your no-go list, and you're going to keep it off of your plate. There are certain reintroduction, protocols that are out there that you can follow along with, starting with small amounts and then increasing. But basically, the bottom line is sort of like feeding a baby. You give them one new food and you don't introduce anything else for 5 to 7 days just to see, are they allergic? Are they going to react to this? When you find a food that is what we call a trigger food, and typically a trigger food is something that you eat the food and you wait 15 minutes, small amount of the food. And if your stomach hurts, if you're having any symptoms within 15 minutes, that's a trigger food, and that needs to go on your no-go list. And sometimes it's hard to figure out what that trigger is. I know for myself, sometimes the trigger is actually an additive that is in foods, things like polysorbate 20 or polysorbate 80. Those are things that can just be additives. And so it can be hard to pinpoint what exactly am I reacting to. But I always tell my patients, if you're getting a stomach ache within 15 minutes of eating something, there's something in there that your body doesn't like. And sometimes it can be hard to figure it out, but it's worth taking the time to parse it out, because then you can avoid that. Because the stomach ache is one thing, but it's also causing some inflammation in your GI system, which can lead to bad health effects down the road. So, foods that you avoid, kind of a list of foods to avoid on the autoimmune protocol: grains, which would include rice, wheat, oats, barley, rye, all those things. And I know for those people who are gluten free, oftentimes you'll pick up maybe a bar that is a gluten free bar. You eat that bar and it's healthy. It says it's GMO free, all these things, and it's gluten free. But you eat the thing and you notice you have a stomach ache. Okay, you're reacting to some other grain that's in there. Whether it's the barley, the rye, what the amaranth, the millet, those are things that you'll see, or the oats, even gluten-free oats. Some people are just very, very sensitive, and so that's the reason. Again, for the elimination phase, you eliminate all of those grains. Legumes, which would include lentils, beans, peas, peanuts, peanut butter, all those things. Nightshades, which would be eggplant, peppers, potatoes, tomatoes, all of those you're going to eliminate. Eggs, you're going to eliminate dairy, you're going to eliminate nuts and seeds. So you can see, again, this is hard because a lot of those things that I've listed are definitely considered healthy foods. I mean, I am more of a paleo hunter gatherer style of eater. And so, I love my nuts and I love seeds, and I do incorporate those in my plan. So, foods that you can eat during this time, of course, fresh vegetables. You will avoid the starchy vegetables, which would be like corn and peas and several other things that can be in that category. Fresh fruits, okay, are good. You can eat fresh fruit. I always prefer to do low glycemic fruit, which would be like your blueberries, raspberries, blackberries. Those are okay. Things that are tubers, like sweet potatoes, for example, those are considered okay on this diet. And then meat that is not processed. So when you look at meat, ideally grass fed, free range type of meats are okay. Grass fed meat is naturally going to be leaner. It's going to have a lower fat content because, they're eating grass and not grain. And then also you can include fermented foods, probiotic rich foods, kombucha, sauerkraut, pickles, coconut kefir. Olive oil would be an oil to use, avocado oil, coconut oil as well. So that's sort of the plan. And again, why would somebody do the autoimmune protocol? They're doing the autoimmune protocol primarily for the sole purpose of reducing their autoimmune symptoms. Some people will do this in an attempt to reverse autoimmune disease as well. And in some cases, they are successful. I've had plenty of thyroid patients who have incorporated a plan like this and have been able to, reverse that disease or get it under control that is, acceptable. So let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about sort of what I call the next wave or the next version. To me, autoimmune protocol is not a sustainable plan. And I feel like it's not sustainable because it's too restrictive. And so moving toward paleo would be after you've done the autoimmune elimination, then you start to incorporate things back in and you find yourself sort of landing at this place called paleo. I think paleo is sustainable. Some people call this the hunter-gatherer type of diet, where you're hunting for some meat and you're gathering some seeds, some berries, some nuts, and that's what you're going to eat for the day, whatever you can find that day. That does not mean what you can find at a gas station. Sometimes they call it the Paleolithic diet as well. And basically, people use this primarily. Studies have shown you will absolutely lose weight with this plan. It does decrease heart disease and lowers cardiovascular risk. And so, what is it? What is it? What is a paleo diet? What do you eat? Well, you basically have a clean diet that's sort of from the earth. And this would include things like eggs, seeds, fruits, vegetables, minimally processed meats. Okay, so we're not talking about bacon, guys. Minimally processed meats, no grain. It pretty much will eliminate grain, legumes, and typically dairy. And again, there are variations of these. Okay, so I've kind of found the sweet spot in my diet, and I do think that diversity can sometimes be a good thing even from a diet standpoint and certainly from a metabolism standpoint. To have variety, I think, is a good thing. But you will eat things like fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds, eggs, lean meats, fish, oil, oils would be olive oil, walnut oil would be okay, avocado oil, coconut oil, those are all good. And you're going to avoid things like the grains. This is why so many times you hear me say no sugar, no grain, and nothing to eat after dinner. That's just like this easy summary of diet 101: no sugar, no grains, nothing to eat after dinner. But with paleo, okay, you're avoiding the grains. You avoid corn, potato, peas, processed foods, chips, cookies, all that kind of stuff. So you can see why you would end up losing weight on this plan, because a lot of times those foods like the processed chips, the cookies, whatever, those are empty calorie foods. They don't have nutritional value. They're high in calories, and they typically, because they're considered that ultra processed food product, okay, that are just highly ultra processed, they are actually linked very much to chronic disease, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, high cholesterol, all that stuff. So again, with this plan, you end up with just overall much healthier. And I know for myself, when I am avoiding grain in the diet, I just feel so much better. I do end up eating, a variety of seeds, a variety of nuts. I'm able to tolerate all of those and, feel great with those. But again, why would somebody do paleo? To sustain the autoimmune, whatever they've accomplished during the autoimmune protocol. They did this restrictive diet that was elimination, and they're feeling good, and they want to sustain that. So you include back in the things that you can eat. And that's kind of where you land. And I think it's a good plan. I think it's sustainable, and I think it's variable. There's enough variety in there that you can really get the nutrients that you need, and can also, kind of keep your metabolism on its toes, if you will. So that is, in a nutshell, autoimmune protocol and paleo. I hope that you will join in next week as we take a dive into the ketogenic diet and the carnivore diet. I'm going to include those two together in one segment. And then after that, we will go into Mediterranean diet and DASH diet, which are both frequently recommended in medicine, and then most likely wrap it up talking about the vegan diet as well. And I think we will have covered everything at that point. We'll see. Anyway, so thanks so much for joining in. Be sure to plug in next week to learn more about diet plan and who should, who shouldn't, and why you would. Thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed that episode. For more information, visit me at deannaosborne.com. Find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Dr. Deanna Osborne. I really want to hear from you, so message me. I love taking your messages and creating topics from them. Please rate, review, subscribe, and share my show with those who have an interest in health and wellness. Thank you for tuning in, and see you next week.